As Vanessa observed her sister Olivia, she felt the coolness of the champagne flute's crystal stem in her hand, a stark reminder of their surroundings. A knot of envy and resentment twisted in her gut. Olivia was the sister blessed with perfection, movie star quality looks, a business tycoon, and loved by everyone who crossed her path. Tonight's celebration was just another showcase of Olivia's untouchable status, a massive business deal that would cement her reputation as a corporate prodigy. With bitterness coating her tongue, Vanessa drained the champagne from her glass in one gulp. "Quite an event," came a voice next to her. Turning slightly, Vanessa met the gaze of an elegant woman dressed in a shimmering emerald gown that caught the light from the grand chandeliers above. "I'm Lilith," she whispered, offering Vanessa a perfectly manicured hand to shake. "And you must be the other Miss Blackwood." A chill ran down Vanessa's spine at being referred to as the other, always second best to Olivia. "My name is Vanessa," she replied curtly, the anger boiling beneath her cool exterior. Lilith's red lips spread into an even wider grin at this response. "Tell me, Vanessa," she started, leaning closer so that Vanessa caught a whiff of her jasmine perfume. "What would you give for just one night in your sister's shoes?" Caught off guard by this question, Vanessa laughed awkwardly. "That's impossible." "But what if it wasn't?" Lilith whispered back with an intriguing smile. Vanessa's heartbeat picked up as she glanced once more at Olivia. She talked animatedly to a group of investors, seemingly basking in adoration from the guests. "Everything," Vanessa found herself whispering back. "I'd give anything." Lilith's eyes glowed ominously. "Be careful what you wish for, darling." She pressed a small compact mirror with an intricate design into Vanessa's hand. "Open it at midnight," Lilith instructed cryptically. "But remember, all magic comes with a price." Before Vanessa could respond, Lilith vanished into the crowd of guests. She stared at the mirror in her hand, her mind whirling with doubts and possibilities. As the night wore on, anticipation gnawed at her insides. When the grandfather clock chimed midnight, adrenaline surged through her veins. Vanessa slipped away from the party and found an empty hallway. Her hands trembling, she opened the mirror. Reality seemed to warp around her as colors blurred together, and a sensation akin to plunging into icy water washed over her. When everything came back into focus, she was standing in the middle of the ballroom surrounded by adoring faces. Her gown had transformed into a breathtaking white creation that outshone even Olivia's dress. The mirror had worked. A glance at a nearby window confirmed it. Olivia's face stared back at her instead of her own. Vanessa felt a surge of excitement as she soaked in all the attention and compliments being showered upon her. This was exactly what she had always wanted. The hours flew by in a blur of champagne toasts and laughter until she spotted Olivia, or rather herself, across the room by the bar. She was livid. Their eyes met for a moment and understanding flashed between them. Panic seized Vanessa as she rushed toward Olivia, attempting to reach her sister before chaos erupted. It was too late. Olivia screamed, "Imposter, that's not me." The rhythmic music ceased and the room fell into a sickly silence. Every eye in the room turned toward Vanessa. An adrenaline rush propelled Vanessa forward, her silken gown bunched in her hands. She fled the grand ballroom, leaving a wake of astonished gasps echoing off the gold-leafed walls. The security guards were hot on her heels, the leather soles of their shoes squeaking against the veined marble floor. Her stilettos clicked against the icy stone as she navigated the maze-like corridors. She pushed open a side door, and a gust of cold night air hit her face like a slap. Freedom was within reach, but as Vanessa sprinted across the dew-dampened grass, a searing pain shot through her skull. She stumbled and cried out as the world spun around her in dizzying waves. Then everything faded to black. When she opened her eyes again, Vanessa was back in the ornate hallway, back inside her own body. A wave of confusion washed over Vanessa, followed by an overwhelming sense of despair. Was it all just an illusion? The sound of footsteps approaching jolted Vanessa back to reality. Olivia's furious gaze sent chills down Vanessa's spine. "What did you do?" Olivia spat as she grabbed Vanessa's arm. "What kind of sick game are you playing?" Vanessa felt a prickle of fear tingle in her skin. It was real. I'm sorry," Vanessa stuttered. Olivia slapped Vanessa across the cheek hard enough to sting. "You ruined everything, my reputation, my deal, all because you couldn't control your jealousy." Olivia stormed away, furious and sobbing at the same time. Tears blurred Vanessa's vision as the enormity of her actions hit her like a freight train. A low chuckle sounded nearby. Lilith leaned lazily against the wall, a wicked grin pulling at her lips. "Quite entertaining," Lilith purred. "Did it live up to your expectations?" Vanessa's despair turned into white-hot rage. She lunged at Lilith, but she easily sidestepped her. "I merely presented an opportunity," Lilith said. "You made the choice." "Fix this," Vanessa pleaded. "There has to be a way to undo it." Lilith's eyes twinkled maliciously. "Oh, there is, but the price, it's quite high." A flicker of hope sparked within Vanessa. "Anything. I'll pay anything, do anything." "Your sister's life." The words lingered in the air for a second before the sound of Olivia's scream tore through the night. Horrified, Vanessa sprinted toward the sound and found her sister sprawled on the ground, clutching her chest and gasping for breath. Vanessa dialed 911 and then knelt beside her sister, cradling Olivia's head in her lap. "I'm so sorry, Livy," she murmured repeatedly, brushing Olivia's hair with her trembling fingers. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Olivia's eyes fluttered open and a weak recognition flickered in them. Relief washed over Vanessa as she hugged her sister. Police sirens wailed in the distance, the eerie echoes adding a sense of urgency to the situation. In the dim light, Vanessa's eyes locked onto Lilith's figure lurking in the shadows. Her face was etched with disappointment before she vanished as if swallowed whole by the night. The sight stirred something within Vanessa, hardening her resolve. She glanced back at her sister and realized that she'd been granted another opportunity, an opportunity to be a more dutiful sister and a better person. The jealousy that had lingered in her heart for so long was gone, at least temporarily. The harsh sound of Karen's fork scraping her porcelain plate filled her empty apartment. It was a lonely noise, breaking the otherwise complete silence. Her eyes stared blankly at the empty plate in front of her. A tiny smear of tomato sauce was the only indication she'd eaten. The meal had been woefully insufficient, like all her meals lately. Hunger gnawed at Karen from inside, an insatiable beast demanding to be fed. It chewed at her relentlessly, making her jump from her chair so abruptly that it almost tumbled. She hurried to the refrigerator and pulled its door open with unnecessary force. A wave of cold air hit her skin. The cool made Karen shiver and a feeling of dread washed over her as she surveyed what was inside the fridge. Leftovers were first on Karen's list. Stale Chinese food, half a lasagna that was more crust than filling, and remnants of roast chicken, all quickly consumed by Karen. Raw ingredients were next. She bit into a stick of butter as if it were an apple without noticing or caring about the oily residue on her tongue, or how it made every breath taste like rancid milk. She cracked eggs one by one and swallowed them whole, shells and yolks alike sliding down her throat indiscriminately. The taste didn't matter as she crammed food into herself. Chewing felt like wasted time, but swallowing was all important. Get the food down, as much as possible. The ache within didn't lessen. It grew stronger with each mouthful she devoured. Days blurred together. Calls from work went unanswered. Her phone buzzed non-stop somewhere in the living room. The doorbell rang repeatedly, her worried neighbors relentlessly pounding on her door, screaming for her to please open up. But Karen ignored it completely, her life taking on a singular focus: to get down as much food as possible, eat. Her stomach swelled. The skin stretched taut over the swollen mass. Pain pulsed with each difficult swallow, but she continued eating without stopping. Catching a glimpse of herself in the hallway mirror showed a disheveled figure covered in sauces and torn clothes. Karen was unrecognizable. As midnight neared, Karen lay on the kitchen floor surrounded by empty containers and discarded wrappers, overstuffed, in pain, but still hungry for more. Her shallow breaths strained. Moving was painful, but the hunger was stronger than any physical discomfort. Dragging herself across the cold tiles, she reached for the pantry, knocking over bottles and boxes in her frantic search. Flour, sugar, anything to fill the emptiness. A sudden sharp pain stabbed her abdomen, causing Karen to cry out in pure agony as she frantically pulled at her shirt to relieve the increasing pressure. Her stomach bulged abnormally, the skin stretched to its limit. A gurgle sounded as a thin red line quickly widened into a gruesome rupture. Blood and bile sprayed from the wound, followed by partially digested food that spilled onto the tiles in a disgusting pile. The smell hit Karen hard, but even now, even as her body was breaking down, there was still the persistent thought. Food. Karen's eyes bulged with terror as her body disintegrated. She struggled to keep herself intact, but it was a losing battle. Her flesh split open, her organs burst, and their contents oozed onto the floor. The room grew quiet except for the sound of her innards hitting the tile and her dwindling breaths. Flies swarmed in from an open window, drawn to the horrifying scene. Finally, her hunger had been satisfied. Days later, Detective Brian Ramirez stood at the entrance to Karen's apartment, fighting his gag reflex. 15 years on duty had not prepared him for this, decay and rot of an overwhelming proportion. "What happened here?" he mumbled through a handkerchief he'd pulled over his nose and mouth. His partner, Andrea Chen, picked her way through the mess on the floor. "A neighbor reported it," she said. "Said they hadn't seen her in days and noticed the smell." Ramirez scanned the chaos. Overturned furniture, broken dishes, food wrappers everywhere, and there in the center of it all were Karen's remains. "Jesus," he muttered under his breath. "It looks like she exploded." Chen squatted near Karen's body, a grim expression on her face. "I've never seen anything like this before. Looks like her stomach ruptured." Ramirez frowned as he prodded an empty pizza box with his pen. "Could it be some kind of eating disorder?" "Maybe," Chen replied, standing up again. "But I've never seen consumption like this before." They waited for crime scene techs to arrive. Ramirez couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. Something about this felt wrong. Across town, in a dimly lit office, a man in an expensive suit read through the police report on his computer screen with satisfaction. "Perfect," he murmured to himself as he minimized the window to reveal a spreadsheet of names and addresses. Karen's name was highlighted in red. Complete. He hovered over the keyboard, selecting the next test subject. Soon the world would experience true hunger, and his company would provide them with a solution, for a price, of course. He pressed Enter, initiating the next step of his plan. Somewhere in the city, another woman reached for a snack, unaware that she was about to develop an uncontrollable appetite. Her famished feast was just beginning. 2004 marked a pivotal moment in the horror film genre, with the release of Zack Snyder's first feature film, Dawn of the Dead. This modern take on George A. Romero's respected 1978 classic introduced a faster pace, intense fear, and a deep look into human nature. James Gunn wrote the screenplay, which was brought to life by a talented cast including Sarah Polley, Ving Rhames, and Jake Weber. The movie throws audiences into a terrifying world overrun by zombies, where survival depends on avoiding these relentless creatures and confronting personal fears. From its opening scenes, Dawn of the Dead immerses viewers in chaos. The story begins with Anna, a nurse who wakes up to find her world changed forever. The sudden arrival of a zombie apocalypse is portrayed with an intense immediacy that sets an unrelenting tone for the rest of the film. The sharp contrast between peaceful suburbia and undead invaders highlights the horrifying reality that unfolds. Snyder smartly sets most of his film inside a suburban shopping mall, an icon of American capitalism and convenience, which becomes both a haven and prison for the survivors. This setting increases tension, while also acting as a small-scale society, where people from different backgrounds must live together. The cast delivers strong performances that add depth and realism to their roles. Sarah Polley's portrayal of Anna is especially notable. She shows resilience and determination as her character moves from shock to an unwavering will to survive, making her character both relatable and sympathetic. Ving Rhames plays Kenneth, a tough police officer whose authoritative presence adds weight to the group dynamic. Jake Weber brings reason and calmness as Michael, while Mekhi Phifer's Andre introduces an emotional subplot involving his pregnant partner. Each character's response to the crisis shows different elements of the human psyche, from denial and despair to hope and bravery. The interactions among the survivors highlight themes of trust, sacrifice, and the moral dilemmas inherent in survival. Dawn of the Dead probes into the human psyche, scrutinizing terror and self-preservation instincts. The film explores primal fears, mortality, and uncertainty, personified by unyielding zombies who were once humans, but are now propelled solely by a ravenous craving for flesh. The survivors' reactions vividly demonstrate the wide range of psychological responses to the situation. Anna's initial shock mirrors the audience's disbelief, while Kenneth's practical approach emphasizes adaptability and resourcefulness. The film also looks at isolation's psychological impact, as the mall becomes both a sanctuary and a claustrophobic trap. Snyder emphasizes the zombie threats through his directing style, creating a constant sense of dread. Fast-moving zombies deviate from Romero's slow-moving hordes, introducing unpredictability that reflects psychological pressure on the characters who must stay alert to survive. Snyder uses varied cinematic techniques to amplify tension in Dawn of the Dead. Quick cuts combined with handheld camera work immerse viewers in the outbreak of chaos right from the opening sequences. This dynamic style is consistently used throughout the film to maintain urgency. Zombie growls create an unsettling soundscape, while sudden noise bursts during attacks increase shock value. Tyler Bates's haunting music intensifies the atmosphere. Snyder's visual style features high contrast lighting and a muted color palette highlighting the survivors' bleak situation. Stark, often dimly lit mall interiors contrast the harsh, overexposed exteriors, creating a visual dichotomy reflecting the characters' internal struggles. Special effects combine practical and digital techniques to create very realistic horror. Zombie makeup and prosthetics show varying stages of decay, significantly enhancing their grotesque appearance. Dawn of the Dead is more than a zombie movie. It's also a commentary on societal issues, using its horrific narrative to reflect our deepest fears. The mall setting isn't just there for scares. It symbolizes consumer culture, where materialism is both a refuge and a source of existential dread. The characters are initially attracted by the mall's luxuries, but they soon realize that these comforts mean little in the face of impending doom. This spotlights the emptiness of consumerism when faced with existential threats. The film also explores themes of community versus individualism. Characters must balance their survival instincts with the need for collective survival, leading to morally ambiguous decisions. It shows how society can break down, and a survival of the fittest mentality can emerge when people are afraid. The character development further emphasizes these themes. Anna goes from being passive to actively fighting for survival, showing how crises can bring about significant change. Kenneth's steadfast resilience and Michael's practical leadership stress the importance of teamwork and trust during chaotic situations. Andre's desperate attempt to protect his family at any cost shows how fear and loss can damage one's mental state. While zombies are an immediate threat, Dawn of the Dead's real horror lies in its depiction of human behavior in high-stress situations. The film presents humanity negatively, showing that fear and desperation can drive people toward violence and treachery. Interactions among the survivors reveal how sustained stress affects emotions, leading to the breakdown of moral boundaries. Dawn of the Dead has established itself as a seminal horror film praised for its unique approach to the zombie genre and its stark portrayal of societal breakdown. Snyder's directorial debut shows his ability to combine intense action scenes with deep psychological insights, setting the stage for his later filmmaking career. The film's influence is apparent in the surge of zombie-themed films and TV shows that followed its release. Its fast zombies, graphic action scenes, and societal commentary have become defining features of this genre, inspiring a new generation of filmmakers to explore the psychological and thematic possibilities within zombie narratives. Dawn of the Dead is a disturbing examination of fear, survival, and human nature. Snyder's skilled direction, Gunn's sharp screenplay, and strong performances from the cast result in a film that is both terrifying and thought-provoking. The psychological complexity of the characters combined with an exploration into societal themes elevate it beyond mere horror into an intriguing study of human behavior under extreme circumstances. Its relentless pace combined with visceral scares creates an atmosphere charged with tension, making Dawn of the Dead a gripping experience from start to finish. In a world where chaos could easily overtake order, Dawn of the Dead serves as a warning about the fragility of civilization and the enduring grip of fear. It challenges viewers to confront their vulnerabilities and contemplate their choices in the face of an apocalyptic threat. For those in search of a horror movie that delivers both thrills and depth, Dawn of the Dead is a must-see, a chilling story that lingers in the mind long after it ends. Dawn of the Dead is an action horror that is 1 hour and 41 minutes long and is rated R. I am not a zombie fan, but I really enjoyed this movie and look forward to reviewing George A. Romero's original in the future. All that said, the Southern Underworld gives it 4.5 bloody knives.